So, we're back where it all started.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time we're living in right now, fellas.
What a time to be alive.
Things are changing. It's time to adapt to the changes. Because, just like the UFC just changed and they just modeled, or whatever you want to call it, the whole landscape of things.
Restructure.
You know what I'm saying? Kicking out pay-per-view um, for $13.99 a month. I saw this thing. I think you sent it. But it went from over $1,200 down to $120 a year if you're a UFC fan.
Yep.
I'm wearing my UFC gear right now just because I'm excited and I'm happy. But there's also mixed feelings out there because there are people who are like, hey, it's gonna affect the fighters. They're gonna make less or not gonna make. They're not gonna make more as they're hoping to. This and that. What do you guys think about the UFC with the new Paramount Plus deal? I heard that it also went down within 48 hours, like the negotiations of it. That's what the CEO of TKO says. And it's interesting because I think, if I'm not mistaken, WWE, which is another branch of TKO, is going to what?
ESPN.
To
no?
ESPN or something like that. It's weird. Like, you're going to have a couple of things if you want to watch. If you're a WWE fan, it's going to be even worse. And luckily,
Yeah,
it's
gonna be like $30 a month, I believe. Well, to
Yeah.
watch
So
the
they're
pay-per-view.
leaving Peacock.
Yeah. And like Raw already is, you have to have Netflix to watch Raw. So it's like that stopped and then all this other stuff. So luckily I'm on the bandwagon right now for John Cena, and like pretty much that's over in a couple months. So after that we'll see. But how do you guys feel about this?
I think it's good for the UFC. And what's happening and how they're doing it. I mean, for a while now, we've known that they've been trying to look for a place where they want to stream, and a place that can actually withhold that many people, and maintain that viewership, which I think is the hardest thing. With Netflix, it's been kind of like a troubleshoot thing, and it started all with the
Jake
Paul
Paul stuff.
fights and stuff like that, and they've been doing all right, but I don't think that Netflix yet is still at that level where they can like withhold like that much viewership, that many people tuning in yet. I don't think they're at that level yet. With Paramount, I already think they're at that level because I've already seen it where they've already, like I've talked to you earlier, they do live events constantly. They're like streaming live events constantly, such as the Champions League, which is like a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like streaming finals of the Champions League, streaming finals of like the finals for either the FA Cup and stuff like that. So the fact that they've already are doing that in other sports shows and proves that they're capable enough to be able to do what the UFC needs to be done. So for me, I look at it as a win, and it just shows how much. The other thing that it kind of exposes to the fighters, to the fan base, is the value of the UFC. Because a lot of people have never put like a dollar sign to it of like, all right, how much is it worth to like, be able to stream this, or how much is it worth the value of this company in a sense. And to say that for 7 years you're going to do $7 billion, like that's a lot of money, So it just shows the value of that.
Well, I also think in addition to what you're saying, Paramount, you gotta realize that they're also they're if you will, kind of owned by CBS.
Correct.
CBS has been the sports games for a while, bro. I mean, they do NCAA, they do NFL, so it's like you have a lot
You have a lot of experience.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So over Netflix, that they're not into live events.
Yeah.
And having
They're
to
still like I think they've improved, but I still think they're troubleshooting things back and forth still. I don't think that they still like they have the constant solution to it, because there's still times where things drop. I still see people complain in X, because that's the first thing where like people go to complain. So you still get complaints about like the feed being slow or something happening. So like they're still troubleshooting a lot of things, and especially with a franchise as the UFC, you don't want mess ups like that.
Yeah,
You don't want feeds to be cut. You don't want things to fall through the cracks like that. You need a very proven company, and that's where like I gotta give it to Paramount, because like I said, they've already done the Champions League. Their stuff, like, you barely hear anything of their stuff messing up during a final or during a thing. Like, they put a top notch team for that not to like happen.
Yeah, and like I said, same thing with NFL. I mean, they've had the NFL for, I want to say, decades now. You know, where they're covering. They have what, at least like two, or no, they have games in the morning and in the afternoon, huh?
Yes, sir.
They split the games with Fox, and then in the nighttime on Sunday it's NBC. So it's a big flip in the whole streaming atmosphere because ESPN lost the UFC, but they bought the NFL Network, and now they have the NFL Red Zone, which is a very big, um, you know, it's a very big program to watch on Sundays during football season because you can choose to wait to watch your team, or you can start from the beginning of the day and just watch nothing but just scoring plays and just highlights of games happening. Because on Sundays you're having like at least probably 4 games happen or more in the morning, and then another
Right.
couple more in the afternoon
Right.
and stuff, especially at the beginning of the season and all that. So yeah, they're just a proven entity to just be good at streaming sports in any capacity, and I think it's about having that network, having that bandwidth to sustain that. And I think that Netflix just isn't there yet. They're entering into a new realm when they're doing this thing. So it's like you're gonna look like a rookie at some point because mistakes are gonna be made and stuff like that, and no matter how much money you throw at it, sometimes you're gonna have to figure out a formula that's gonna work. So like I said, I'm excited, but at the same time, you sent me something about Brendan Schaub and about how the fighters are gonna be. They're the ones that are gonna suffer and stuff like that.
I understand his point of view when he's saying that fighters are gonna suffer because we're used to the pay-per-view system. So it's kind of like, okay, so now that there's no longer this pay-per-view system, how are fighters going to be paid? Like, what's this pay structure going to look like? How do their contracts change now? Because I'm sure agents are going to want to renegotiate contracts because of this. So, and I'm sure there's going to be fighters that maybe don't like the new pay structure, or there's going to be fighters that do, but it's going to bring in new people. So it changes a lot of the structure in that way. It also changes the structure of hyping up a fight, because that was the thing about a pay-per-view. The whole point of paying for a pay-per-view is you're hyping up fighters so much that you're gonna want to see this fight. Mm-hmm. Now that pressure's off, where they don't have to hype it as much. They can still promote it, and now they have even more. Since they're partnered with Paramount and you said CBS,
CBS owns Paramount.
Exactly. So now that they're partnered with that, branding and promoting is even bigger in a sense.
For sure.
Because of that.
You're reaching a larger audience because CBS, it's a news network too. If you think about it, here locally it's Channel 2, you know what I mean, type of stuff. So, bro, I can't wait till we're watching fights on Channel 2. We're watching them on ABC.
Yeah.
Now they're going to be on CBS, you know what I mean?
So that's the thing where it's like, that's the questions rely on. Okay, fighters
will be on CBS.
Fighters
possibly.
Used to get paid because of the pay-per-view, and they could fight.
Yes and no.
But
the pay structure was you'd get pay-per-view points as a champion.
Yes.
If you're a champion.
Yes.
So it was incentivizing being a champion because you had the opportunity to make more money.
That's why I say the whole payment structure now changes, because it's kind of like, how are those top fighters now, since there's no longer the pay-per-view to strive for?
Well, I think
how is that new payment system gonna be?
Just seeing numbers and things that I sent you earlier too. For example, something that we covered on this podcast, I think probably last year and the last couple of years, was how they made $1 billion in revenue in a year. This deal is worth $1 billion a year for 7 years. So it's like they're covering that revenue, in a sense, just with their streaming deal, plus whatever else they're gonna make. You know what I mean? So it's like that's a big deal. Yeah. And I was seeing the numbers that they had like with ESPN, and it's like night and day the numbers that they're getting at this time around. And on top of that, I feel like another thing that I pointed out to you was I looked up when was the last time the UFC sold $1 million pay-per-views, and the last time was when the last time Conor fought against Dustin Poirier. That's a long time ago. So if you think about it, is it really like are fighters really like? And the way I see it is, they're struggling to sell pay-per-views, so it's hurting in a sense the champion regardless. You know what I'm saying? So I feel
They're
like
struggling to sell pay-per-views because of something we've said in this pod a lot, and it's the sport has been dying, but it's because of the way that it is. This is a way of revitalizing the sport.
yeah, trying
Because-
hoping that's part of it. But
Yes, no, but it
even-
revitalizes it.
even the dead. I mean, I'll let you. Go first, my bad.
What I'm saying is the way it revitalizes it is what we're talking about. This now brings it to a whole new audience. It brings it to whole new eyeballs. The marketing is going to be heavy on it. But now, like you're talking about, you brought up a point that I hadn't thought about, which is, okay, now that money is secured. That even though they've already secured $1 billion in revenue, right? Because that's how much they made. That money is secured, and that's not talking about merch sales. That's not even talking about
Ticket
gate
sales.
sales. Like it's not talking about
Your
percentage
subscriptions
of food and all that.
Because I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you're still gonna get something from subscriptions
Percentage, yeah,
and
all
all that
that.
stuff.
So it's like all that stuff adds on as well. So it's like the other thing, what I mean by
Sponsorships, too.
revitalizing it is back in the day, the whole thing was just to see people fight. It wasn't so much of like, we got to look up to this fighter. Like that has been more of a fairly new thing in it. If you look at like the trajectory of the sport. So now it's like you're bringing it back to its roots to where now it's like people that really are invested into the UFC are now just going to be able to watch it just to watch it. And out of that, I'm sure we're going to get a mix of new fighters coming out that then you're going to want to be excited for.
Yeah.
Not a fighter that's just being forced and marketed on you because we got to sell the pay-per-view.
Yeah, type of thing. So I think it's interesting because I saw this clip that I don't know if Full Send reposted it or it had just happened to come up, but the last time Dana was on their podcast, he was talking about this deal specifically, not with Paramount, but just who their next platform was gonna be or whatever. And he said that from now till the day till when that deal is done, that new deal, which is this Paramount 7-year deal, he says that a lot of stuff is gonna change. And he was saying how like cable's dying, satellites dying. I mean, bro, I've been a cord cutter for a long time now. That's like the term they use, right? You know, you cut the cord of like cable TV and all that stuff, and it's kind of gotten us into this how do you say it? This other problem, better said, where it's now we're paying for all these different subscriptions and stuff like that. And again, if you're a fan of like the WWE, you're paying a lot of money throughout the year just to be able to watch the sports entertainment that you want to see. Same thing as us with the UFC. I mean, if you're paying the pay-per-view every month and stuff like that, and plus the ESPN Plus and all that stuff.
Here's the other thing that has happened,
And sorry, did you also hear about the Apex being expanded to 10,000 or 15,000 fans so that they can have that? So people were complaining about Apex fights. So they're like, all right, we're gonna build the Apex up more so we can hold up to 10 to 15,000 people, and that's like kind of it's money, and it's like I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna look it up right now. But I think that crypto or even the forum is around like 18,000. It's not like a big ass arena like that. So I think it's a reasonable amount of people to have, 10 to 15,000. You know. So yeah. What were you gonna say?
No, what I was gonna say is that subscriptions have changed a lot. I'm a person that like I got into like the whole subscription very early, since Netflix was around and a bunch of all these platforms that do subscription based.
Right.
But what I've seen over the years is the price increase. Like back in the day when I first like joined to different ones that I have, a lot of them were fairly cheap. Like there were like $7, $8, and now it's like Netflix is on that path where you're talking about like $24. You know, you're talking about HBO that now is on the path of like $16. You're talking now about ESPN that ESPN started at $7, and now it's on that
14,
tip where it's 14.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Paramount, same thing. It started out at $8. Now Paramount is going to like $13, $14. And like you're seeing all these streaming platforms like raise their prices constantly. So it's like eventually that's where you get up like, man, do I want to keep all this? And that's why like that new joke is, are we just gonna make this thing called cable again and then put all of them into one thing
Yeah.
because you're charging people way too much?
I've heard of that joke too.
You know, where it's like it's ridiculous now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like all these people made their platforms because they wanted to compete with Netflix. It's like if you look at what, like, for example, Disney bought Hulu back in the day, and they've been owning Hulu, but it's like even Hulu's starting to like die out.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they're trying to redirect people to Disney, and Disney isn't, even as a streaming platform, it's not up there. I mean, they did the whole bundle thing where it's like ESPN, Hulu, Disney all in one, but even that is people aren't into it as much.
Yeah, and like
because the
not
content isn't there
True.
like that. And then you're also competing when you're talking about the newer generation, not the older generation, but in the newer generation, you're also competing with streamers, because streamers is another form of TV content, but it's just at that level. So then you're competing with the younger generation that prefers to watch a streamer than to watch like a TV show. That's why TV shows aren't even as good as they used to be. They're like, they come out like whatever. But the other thing I want to bring up is Hulu is gonna shut down. And so what Disney's gonna do is they're gonna shut down their Hulu site, and basically all
Put
the
everything in Disney
content
Plus.
that's on Hulu is gonna go to Disney Plus. So then it's like that like revitalizes, and people will then want to go to Disney Plus. So and then it's like, are you just gonna do a bundle of ESPN and Disney Plus now? Like, well,
I think it makes sense because you're forcing people to have 3 different platforms. You're forcing people to have to watch 3 different things, and it's like I was on Disney Plus not too long ago, and I noticed that they have Malcolm in the Middle on Disney Plus, but it's because it's part of Hulu. So it's like they've done that where they've put certain shows in there, and I feel like it's like you're saying, you have to package it somehow. I mean, right now Paramount, they were just in the news not too long ago because of South Park, and all the money they gave to South Park. I believe $1 billion to South Park so that they can have their show there.
Facts.
You know, and the last episode was another one that was just to another level. You know what I mean? Shout out to Charlie Kirk, because that one was hilarious to me, bro. Because Cartman was like Charlie Kirk. He even had the hair, bro, and everything. And he was going on to campuses and debating with liberal college girls.
I
Bro,
haven't seen that episode.
dude, it's hilarious,
He
bro.
was master debating.
Master debating, dog, yeah. Cartman, what are you doing? I'm just master debating with college guys, man. Like, bro. And it's funny because he has the whole thing, and like, so he gets mad because someone else at school has a podcast, and they're like calling people out too. He like asks Butters, he's like, what's the difference, describe a woman? And he goes, someone that you cuddle with and give kisses to. And he goes, wrong. It's a female, this and that. And he brings out the Bible and all this, bro. It's to another level, you know what I mean? So, you know, they're throwing money at all these things, you know, all these places and all that stuff. Like, for example, Netflix has done it a lot in the aspect that they've done deals with, for example, Happy Gilmore just came out. They've for a couple years now, I've known that they have a deal with Adam Sandler for him just to release movies through there. And then Dave Chappelle and his stand-up, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's exclusive.
All of his specials go directly to there, type of stuff, and things like that. Andrew Schultz couldn't come up with a platform, so he had to do it a different way to release it initially. So things like that, where you have to find who's gonna give you the right money, and even then, it's like after that deal's up, like there's rights to it. There's a lot of moving pieces to it. You know what I mean? So the UFC is taking. I need to look more into it, because the way that a lot of people are describing it is that they're taking their numbered events to their platform. And to me, it's like when they say they're numbered events, that's a number of things. Because if you look at it, it goes from the pay-per-views that are numbered. Even the fight nights are numbered. They don't promote it like that as much, but it is numbered. We have Contender Series that's supposed to start this Tuesday, actually, tomorrow. The Ultimate Fighter. So it's like, are you gonna put all that there? Like, if you go to ESPN right now, ESPN Plus, the entire library is almost gone.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if you've seen that before.
Nah, I haven't looked at it. ESPN Plus is only used.
It's been like that since the deal expired.
Since La Liga, that's it. But I did hear that all their content is gonna be exclusively on just Paramount. Like, all of their content is gonna be exclusively there.
Like, if you see this right here, like before you could go to the UFC and like look at all types of stuff, like not just these things, but they had a whole section of rivalries of different fighters depending on who it was, like all types of stuff. And now it's like very selective of what they have there. Like UFC the beginning, that's pretty much it. But and even these, like the other day, I was like, oh, let me go see something from a different one, and this now it's low. No, see no content available, so you can't even go up to the back. But before the deal was up, you could go back and see all those things. Right now, the only thing you're able to see is the Ultimate Fighter
Highlights.
No, I think you're actually able to see the episodes of Ultimate Fighter. They have the embedded episode there, the Contender Series that's coming out tomorrow, and then like all the other content or whatever they make of it. But it's just that what I'm talking about, like how they're at this point where I feel like the UFC better take everything there, and I hope it's like that because
Well, that's what they've stated. At least right now, they've stated that all that content is going to go exclusively on Paramount, and it's not going to be with ESPN anymore.
So, are you guys subscribing?
Well, right now, I like I told you earlier, I usually subscribe to Paramount for when Champions League comes out, and then I unsubscribe once Champions League is done. I literally unsubscribed in June because that's when the Champions League ended. And usually when Champions League comes back around, I'm most likely going to be subscribed again. I mean, this deal isn't happening until 2026 that it's fully active with them. So I should be subscribed by then because Champions League usually begins, like October-ish. So I should have it again by then. Yeah.
Me, yeah, I'm gonna subscribe for sure because you guys pretty much, because of the UFC, I've been getting more into it, and then I've been watching some of the fight nights too, and then South Park too, man.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
But yeah, it's pretty wise that UFC did this move, Also because like I think you guys were saying earlier, pretty much they're gonna gain more viewerships, like people are gonna like me for instance, or three of us will eventually jump onto that
Well,
the subscription.
the other thing is a lot of people couldn't even afford it,
Right.
and it's like this makes it like going from like a pay-per-view where you're talking about almost like $90 because I remember it used to be
Right.
like 80 and then it got to like 90 something. Going from that to like I'm only gonna pay $14 a month and I get to see everything. It just makes it affordable for every fan.
And then even then, people were like even streaming it, like
Mhm.
like for streamies or like stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's true.
they'll make some money somehow. They solidified it a good deal for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So something that I'm seeing here is like again, they're not being super specific, but what it says here is that Paramount will become the new home to all UFC fighting championship events in the U.S. So, like, as long as you're in the U.S., that's how you'll be able to see it. If you go outside of the country, it's gonna probably be on a different platform. And I've noticed that when I've gone to El Salvador. And then it says the deal has an average annual value of 1.1 billion, as we just stated. And then right here it says Paramount will exclusively distribute the UFC's full slate of its 13 marquee numbered events, meaning the pay-per-views, and then 30 fight nights, which is what we see every weekend, what we just saw this weekend, on its streaming platform Paramount Plus, with also select numbered events simulcast on CBS.
Here's the other thing.
So I'm hoping that it is including the
Here's the
Contender
other thing we
Series.
haven't discussed, which is now that you have all this money, this also opens the door for a new pool of fighters. So it's like, what are the new fighters that you're probably going to take from a different organization, or maybe that they're scouting to see, like, let's bring these people in. Because you can add a whole new pool as well.
Yeah,
now that
and
you
I
have-
think that the UFC has kind of done that with the whole Bellator kind of going under with, and after PFL absorbing it and everything. Like, for example, this weekend we're about to see Aaron Pico fight against Leon Murphy. He's one of the four Bellator fighters that have came in. That's including Michael Venom Page, which I believe he's fighting as well. Pitbull. The other dude, Patchy Mix, I think he came from PFL. But there's a good amount of fighters that are coming in from other organizations so far. And like I said, Contender Series starts tomorrow, so that's gonna still kind of be swirling around there, and I think the UFC does a good job of finding the talent there. Because there's another thing. There's another like series that there is that we don't really talk about, but it's called Dana White Looking for a Fight, and he goes to these like random places
Scouting.
where there's a gym or even sometimes there's just like smaller organizations, and he watches the whole event, and then he'll sign one fighter out of the event, yeah, and whatnot. So that's another thing too, where like the UFC has done a good job of that, where I feel like regardless of what platform they would have gone to, finding talent was always going to be kind of their cream de la cream, or whatever you want to call it, the cream of the crop, or they do a good job of finding all those fighters. Because I mean, for example, Drake Duplessis that we're going to see this weekend as the champion, he fought on the last time the UFC had $1 million buys, pay-per-view buys, better said. He was on the prelims with Ilya Zaporia, and now those two guys are champions. I mean, Khamzat Chimaev came out of nowhere during the pandemic, type of thing, and fought back-to-back weeks and stuff like that. And we haven't seen him fight so much because of his visa issues, and supposedly Trump helped him get these visas. That's why he's fighting in Chicago this weekend. So things like that, where I feel like there's a lot of stuff that it's in the UFC's favor right now, for talent and whatnot, because I mean, Khamzat's a big reason why that. I mean, couldn't find the U.S.
I think this fight is very hyped. You're talking about two guys that have been dominating right now, and you get to see which one of these still remains undefeated after this.
Drake has lost before, but Khamzat is one of the few guys that's going into a championship fight undefeated, 14-0, and the list of middleweight fighters that went into a championship fight undefeated and won the belt is very short. You have, I believe it's Izzy and Chris Weidman. That's it. Every other one had a loss in the record, type of stuff. So Khamzat can join that exclusive group and do that. And honestly, man, I feel like this is an interesting fight because with almost anybody else, like let's say if it was Izzy, I would say, damn, Khamzat has a very good just chance of just running through him like that.
Yeah.
Just because the styles differ so much. While Drake he's more well-rounded in the aspect that I feel like he can hold his own in the wrestling department. But man, just Khamzat's an animal, man. So this card as a whole, I feel like is pretty underrated. Because if we start from the beginning, and this is still on ESPN, obviously, still gonna cost us 80 bones. But you have people like Jessica Andrade, Chase Hooper fighting in the Chase Hooper. Alex Hernandez is gonna be a good one actually. King Green, Diego Ferrer is gonna be a good one for.
Finally, they don't give him a old timer.
Yeah, Tim Elliott versus Kai Sakura is a good one. Jared Cannonier and Michael Venom Page is gonna be an interesting fight.
Even that Neo and Prates.
Yeah, that one's interesting. Prates is an interesting guy to me, bro. This guy smokes like a 6-pack, or not six. He smokes. He smokes a pack of cigarettes, bro. 6-pack, dog. I'm smoking that loud pack. But nah, bro. But he smokes
pack.
He smokes that cigarettes hard, bro. And competes in the UFC.
I mean that was the thing where it's like back in the day that used to happen a lot. There's a lot of athletes recorded that used to be like very huge smokers and then could like run the mile or like run athlete stuff and be perfectly fine. But
definitely, I think you're capable of it, but I think you're also, I mean.
Oh yeah, I think you're.
It's long-term health.
Yeah, lifespan. Yeah.
Like to say you're smoking a pack of cigarettes every day is pretty crazy, bro. That's intense.
Let alone 6.
Yeah, let alone 6 alone. Yeah, 6-pack. Even that of cigarettes is like that's pretty crazy. You know what I'm saying? Type of thing.
Lungs are black.
So, this is gonna kick off in January as far as this whole new UFC deal goes. Next year it's supposed to be supposedly this White House event, and it's just interesting to see now that they're on it's gonna be possibly something you see on CBS and stuff like that. It's like, man, I hope that in the long run it favors us fans and also the fighters as well. Because right now, again, people are like, oh, this is and that. But again,
it's like once they clear the pay structure, I think it's gonna bring peace of mind.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just a lot of people are looking at the fact that some fighters used to get paid off the pay-per-view structure,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just okay. Like, how are we gonna get paid now? And it's like it's the same thing that happens in any company. Once there's changes in a company, people just need the clear vision of the structure, where it's like, hey, this is our game plan. This is how you guys are gonna be covered, and as long as you explain that to your employees will be fine. However, right now, there's just so much like darkness to the plan that a lot of people are kind of like, well, how's this gonna happen now?
And
Because they're used to that old structure.
and the part of the pay structure that's changed, especially like I said, when it comes to you being a champion, is the pay-per-view part of it, because you still got your base salary in a sense, or your base fight pay, as to defend the title or whatever, and then the pay-per-view points were kind of like incentive is how are you gonna sell the
But
fight.
that's the other
know what I
thing.
mean?
The other thing is kind of
So if you're someone like Bilal Muhammad that wasn't selling fights, like it don't help you at all.
but the other thing that people are gonna want is to renegotiate their contracts, because you're hearing the big number. So like the big number right now is $7 billion. So as soon as you hear that big number, there's gonna be a lot of fighters that are gonna want to be like, well, let me renegotiate.
Well, the thing about
Yeah.
negotiation is where's your leverage. So I think there's a couple of things. A lot of us in the whole world knew, especially if you're a UFC fighter, you should know that the deal with ESPN and all that was coming to an end. It ended, and now we're at a whole new ball game, a whole new era, as we're saying. So where I see the whole script there, or for whatever you want to call it, is these fighters probably should have not have signed a new contract. Probably should have held out maybe till this whole thing cleared up. So as far as the fighters that don't have leverage, fighters that are you're just someone in probably not even the rankings, or you are in the rankings, whatever it is. But then we're talking about the people that have been there, or the ones that maybe are coming off of a deal. They just fought their last fight on their contract, and now they have to renegotiate. Like, there's leverage there, you know what I mean? Or someone like Ilia Topuria, like, we don't know anything about his deal.
Right.
You know, they say that Conor had 2 fights left on his deal, you know, type of thing. So there's all these things where, you know, you start to question, like, it all depends on how many fights there are left. What fighter are we talking
You
about?
still have the John Jones one.
What? Yeah, like he's someone that has leverage. So, but other fighters, it's like, where's their leverage at? How many fights are left on their deal? But yeah, the next year or so, you're gonna start seeing maybe different things. And the thing is that since it's a different type of company, it's not like in the NBA where it's like, oh, what do you want to call it? I don't know who should I say? Izzy Adesanya just to sign the 2-year, $5 million deal or whatever. Like, we don't get that in the UFC. You depending on where they fight, you might get some kind of salary or purse.
This is how much they got.
Yeah,
paid for
type
the
of
fight.
stuff you get to see, you know, type of thing. But
And they
besides
got
that,
these bonuses for the fight.
yeah, it's fight of the night, knockout, or whatever it is, type of stuff. You know what I mean? So all those things go into hand. You know what I mean? But you also have, so now that we're talking about pay, a big thing right now is the WNBA and them wanting a bigger percentage of revenue and all this stuff. And how I feel like in the last 2 years or so, we've been seeing a big hype out of.
It's been an ongoing topic.
We've been seeing a bigger hype in the WNBA, and it's also because there's what's it called? People going out, these billionaires, better said, buying the teams. There's more money within the WNBA now in that aspect. It's still not making money though. That's one thing about the WNBA, and the other argument on the other side is that the WNBA has never been a profiting league. It's always been something that's losing money and whatnot. So that's that side of the argument. And then there's this new documentary has come out with Diana Taurasi, I believe it is, and she's talking about when she was a rookie in the WNBA, she was getting paid less than the janitor at the arena. You know what I mean? And had to go play in Russia, and was getting paid a lot more money there, and getting treated like royalty basically. And was overplaying, and a lot of WNBA players were overplaying because the moment the WNBA season ended, they were going to Russia. The moment that season ended, they came back, maybe had a couple weeks off, a week off, and will start their new training camp for the new WNBA season. So what do you guys think is the solution to something like this, especially when you're talking about billionaires getting involved into? We're seeing it more and more in sports, but now they're getting involved in the WNBA. What do you think is the solution?
I don't think there's a clear solution to it, to be honest. I think it takes time. That's the number one thing. It takes time because you need to structure it. You need to structure it to be able to see, okay, how do we marketed this and how do we get people engaged? For example, right now, and that's thanks to social media. The two biggest players that are always being talked about is Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, anything they do goes viral on social media, and it's this like story of like the rivalry between them two, right? So it's that's already bringing in people and eyeballs to want to go check it out because those clips are going viral to where maybe you want to check out a game and be like, okay, like what are they about, you know? So like I said, I think it takes time, and then the restructuring of how do you want to get people engaged in it. And I understand that players like they're like, oh, we want to get paid, but it's like you also got to make your sport engaging and entertaining to where people want to go view it and people want to go check it out. And I think it begins with like these two girls that right now you're seeing that are starting to bring in eyeballs and starting to get like a younger generation more like wanting to want to watch it. So it starts with that, and I think if you continue to make it something where it's like it's being talked about and there's engagement with it, eventually like you bring in like it takes time, but you bring more audience through time.
Yeah. So I agree that, I mean, in certain ways things have to change to engage the fan base, and I think that regardless of what you try to do, money's involved. Whether it's the way you market it, whether it's the way you start scouting for talent, all that stuff, it's gonna require money.
Here's the other thing I would, because right now we're talking about how you get that engagement. For example, during the finals, the NBA did something that I think the WNBA can benefit off of. The finals were something that a lot of people weren't invested in. Why? Because there were two teams of a very small market. So it was kind of like the people that actually enjoy basketball and are basketball enthusiasts and purists, they watched it.
Right.
Because they're going to watch it regardless of which team it is. But I'm talking about the casual fan that watches it because they root for a team that's in a bigger fan base, right? So it's like, how do you get people engaged in it, or how do you get an audience to watch it? The NBA did one of the things, which is invite streamers. They invited the AMP boys, which is Kai Cenat and his group. They invited them to finals games, sat them there, allowed them to stream certain things. Same thing with they took out the FaZe boys, where the FaZe boys were there. They streamed some of it and they showed it. So it's like because those guys right now have the attention of the younger audience that's up and coming. By having those people there, then you get those eyeballs to look at it. And it's like that's how you gain like another side of viewership. And that's where I'm kind of like, okay, because you're talking about like what can you do? Well, these guys are professionals at making clips and getting people engaged through TikTok, through Reels, through Shorts. If the WNBA can, strike up some type of deal or some type of thing where it's like you're inviting these streamers to come and participate in those things, you can start bringing a younger audience. And like I said, over time, you would build that audience.
Can I say something controversial?
Go for it.
The reason why I feel like that works with things like the NBA and other sports is because, if I'm just going to be completely blunt and completely honest, they respect those athletes and respect that sport and in some ways aspire to be them. So I feel like it would be hard for me to see like someone like Kai Cenat be totally invested into that. Like that, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? If you get what I mean, the difference between it, like where he has these people come onto the streams and stuff like that. Like I can see him doing that, definitely with a couple of them.
He can do it with Angel Reese.
But at the same time, I feel like him going to a game and being engaged like that and being a fan like that, like it wouldn't be the same because again, like it's just you're talking about a sport. Let's put comparing it to like the NBA, a sport that these guys have been watching it since we're young, bro, growing up and watching NFL, all that type of stuff. And I'm not trying to say like throw shade at the WM players, saying that they don't deserve respect or they're not like respect worthy or anything like that.
Right.
It's just more that it's just the truth in that aspect that the level of respect that these streamers or just people in general have for these other athletes of other stuff, it's way bigger, you know what I mean, than the WNBA. And I feel like what we saw with the women's national team not too long ago in soccer and all that, like, was a different phenomenon there, because
the difference
because they were winning too.
No, but the difference there is you're talking about. So, for example, here's the thing: when you're talking about soccer, the soccer world, there's a lot of female football teams, and a lot of people don't watch them.
Mm-hmm.
Like even here in LA, we have Angel City.
Yeah, that's a newer team.
And it's like that's another one that's not promoted as much as LAFC or LA Galaxy. There's a lot of female soccer teams.
Yeah.
The difference when you're talking about the US team, the female US team, is that they've won a lot of World Cups.
Mm-hmm.
They're World Cup winners.
Yeah.
And they've won a lot of them recently and like a few years ago, but like they were winning consecutively. They had very top players. So and the thing is that the US loves when you have a winning team.
And I feel like that.
And the men's team is barely turning around.
That's why, that's where I feel like the level of respect between even those two were very night and day.
But here's the difference, though. Even they talked about them not getting paid enough. Even they were saying, we're winning all these World Cup trophies, but we're not even getting paid what the men get paid. And even to fund the women's side, basically, like I think it was the World Cup where the one that happened in Qatar, the money that the U.S. men's team made there was used to fund the females team.
It's all one basically. So it's kind of like, again, the NBA funds the WNBA. So it's the same thing, you know, that's going on there. And I feel like to some way, in some degree, like I feel like to start changing that dynamic. If I'm being honest with you, I was listening.
Here's the other thing I would say. There's famous female streamers.
Yeah, for sure. I understand that the streaming thing is one thing, but like outside of that, like for example,
if you can get them engaged to even go to that or do that, like for example, one thing I've been seeing sports start doing a lot right now is they're tapping into the anime world, where like for example, I think this week, the Dodgers is doing a collab with Demon Slayer anime, where they're doing an LA hat.
They did it with One Piece, and the Lakers did it with One Piece too.
So now you have all these fans that go get that merch, right? They did it with One Piece, one of the biggest animes that there is, and it's like all those fans go out for that.
Yeah.
But the same thing the Dodgers doing, the Lakers have done.
Yeah,
they did a One Piece night as well, and you're beginning to see sports like market these other places, and that's where I'm kind of like, can the WNBA do these things as well? Because I'm sure they can do like an anime theme thing. There's so many things where they can try to engage all these people to at least go to that and check it out.
Yeah, but that's again, the engagement is one thing of it, and I think that's a solution that it has to be figured out, and for sure all these ways are, I think, valid ways. But again, when we're getting into, I feel like that billionaires are getting involved into this sport as well. I was listening earlier to Ramona Shelburne, and she made a good point where I feel like she was talking about how to make money, you gotta spend money. And I feel like in part, hearing what Diana Taurasi had to go through in that she was going overseas to get paid more, and then coming back, and then her body was like, it was playing a lot, so it was overworking itself, so injuries were happening and all this stuff. It's like they don't got the money to also spend on their own bodies, bro. And it's like, also I feel like the resources that you get within a team, like I'm sure the amount of trainers there are, for example, on the Lakers to the Sparks are night and day. It's not the same thing, you know. So it's like, if they were to even to just invest in the teams more, not just in the pay for the players, but just overall care and treatment, bro, like it would help out the product as a whole because you have healthier athletes, and whatnot. So, and if you're doing that also from like younger and younger, like it's gonna change all that stuff. Another thing that changed that I think that could have helped women's sports, especially like the WNBA, was NIL stuff. The NIL stuff I felt like was gonna help out because Caitlin Clark was one of those people that came from college, and and there's other people that they're able to use their image and likeness, and then you get money from when you're outside of the major leagues, and you're able to again invest that with back into yourself and all that stuff. But then supposedly Trump kind of changed that they can't be deemed employees or whatever it is. So that's changing the landscape of sports as well, type of thing. So I think that with that, I think, like I said, any type of thing you do, streamers or what I said, is going to require money. You're going to have to throw money at the problem in this
Obviously,
case.
yeah. I mean, streamers are not gonna just do that out of the kindness of their heart. Obviously,
You know what I mean? Yes.
But that's what I'm saying, though. It's like you can look at the female streamers. There's top female streamers that you can also get.
That's the problem,
to
though.
get-
That's a
get
problem,
involved
though.
in it.
That's another problem, though.
Yeah.
If women would support women's sports, it'd be a big difference. That's probably another controversial thing, but it's true. You don't see women packing out going to go see the LA Sparks. Nah, they want to go to the NBA game. So you know what I mean? So it's like it's we can say male or female, whatever it is, but it's like someone has to really invest into it. You know what I mean? Like and when I mean invest, not just money, it's even their attention, their time, all that type of stuff. You think there's a solution, Byron,
For the
for the women?
yeah, but off the top of my head, I was to say market it somehow better somehow maybe, or unless they find like I was gonna say maybe like a golden star, but even then, like you guys were saying, they've got these two, what's her name, Clark and Angela Reese, or maybe because there hasn't been like a Michael Jordan maybe type of like star that's maybe captivated the attention.
And like I said, it's tough because it's all the problems we're talking about. They're not getting paid enough. The product isn't also like, dang, like this is awesome to watch. Like
Right.
Shaq a couple years ago made like the remark of like lower the rim so that they can dunk more and you'll get more viewers. And they got offended because they were like, we can dunk, we can do this. We probably got more. Like I know there's a time where I think it was the Brittany Griner girl. Her and DeMarcus Cousins were going back and forth about she can beat him one on one and this and that. So it's like, and it's just one of those things that it's gonna continue to kind of be an issue. I feel like, but I think that, like I said, money is gonna be the end all be all solution. How they use it, how they decide to do it, it's gonna depend. But it's a thing that I feel like in the U.S. you have like these big sports franchises or these big leagues, if you will, that just have captivated the American public for years, decades. Football, you have college and you have NFL. People are captivated with both. There's people that are like diehard college football fans.
Yeah.
You know what I
They
mean?
find it more entertaining.
And then same thing with basketball. Diehard college basketball fans.
Yep. There's
And
people
then-
that find it more
Then
entertaining.
the NBA.
Yeah.
They don't like the whole. They see it's more team oriented and all that type of stuff. So
You see more individual plays.
yeah, or in the NBA compared to where in
NCAA.
college you're not gonna see. You're gonna see less. It's more or less. It's more likely for you to see players take less shots as individuals, and it's more spread out as in the team. You know what I mean? There's sometimes there's outliers, if you will, because there's sometimes where you have a great player that he gets type of stuff. The offense runs through him, but
Yeah.
college ball seems to be more team oriented. You have that. You have baseball, which the college one isn't as popular, but the major leagues baseball is a huge thing here. You know what I mean? Maybe not as much to watch on TV, but man, right now that Otani's been here in the Dodgers, I've seen the Dodgers stadium packed out more than I have in years, bro.
Yep.
And I ever have, you know,
Entertaining. Home runs.
type of stuff. So it's like you have that whole thing where you're competing against all these other organizations. You're talking about the UFC now, that they've only been around since '93. So now you're competing with all these other leagues and all these things. So it's tough, you know what I mean? To then captivate that attention, you know what I mean? You have to do something very extraordinary, I feel like, to captivate that and to take that attention away. Like the big deal this last year, I think it started last year, is that the NFL now has games on Christmas. They used to never do that because that was like the NBA day. And like Thanksgiving was for the NFL or whatever. And they're competing with each other, and it's like the NFL still kind of wins. They're the ones that have the most viewership here in the United States and stuff like that. So, you know, it's just like I said, there's a lot of factors to it. It's not just that, because MLS has been struggling to really gain that viewership too. Do they have a fan base? Yeah, they have a fan base. They have a team at least in just about every major city or every at least.
Look at what, for example, look at what Ryan Reynolds did with Wrexham. Wrexham is one of the oldest clubs in England. But the entertaining thing to me when you look at Wrexham is like, what did he do in order to get people engaged? That team was stuck, if I'm not mistaken, in like 4th division.
Yeah.
And what did he do? He threw money at the issue. He did a whole Hulu series of, me and my friend bought this club, and then started doing a show with this guy of season per season of how they're helping this team get up. To where now I believe they're in 2nd division right now.
Yeah.
And then if they get promoted next year, they can be in 1st division.
Premier League, yeah.
So it's like you're seeing this where it's like they were in I think 5th or 4th or 5th division, and he's been helping them get on. But they have a huge fan base here in the United States. Because of the Hulu show.
And it's kind of like what the UFC went through.
But before that, like, no one knew who that team was.
The UFC
here in the United States.
Like, the UFC was really dying back in the early 2000s when they couldn't find anyone to really put them on TV like that. Yeah. So what did they come up with? The Ultimate Fighter. Mm-hmm. And made a whole reality show, and that's what they've credited that's what saved the UFC. They threw all the last money they had, and it was like, we're gonna go in with this.
There's other teams that do kind of like the Hard Knocks version of.
I heard they're gonna stop doing that, but yeah.
Like, you know how where they follow teams and they go throughout the whole season. Yeah. So Amazon does a version of that, but for Premier League, where like each year they choose a Premier League team. And then they have the whole camera crew film all the stuff.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, their whole reality documentary show of, like, how are we going to win the league or how are we going to win trophies? So, yeah, I mean, those are solutions where it's like, and the clubs get paid for that.
Yeah.
Massively.
Yeah,
because
it's a rights deal in some type of way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like I said, money is going to have to be involved. No matter how you do it. However you strategize that you're going to spend it, invest it, you're going to have to do that so that whatever you want can move forward. Honestly, even this podcast, we're going to have to do some stuff, invest some kind of money to, like, push it forward. You know what I mean? We're in a new spot again, back in where it started, and there's already little things that I told you guys before we started. We got to, so that, you know, make it look better, this and that. Throw money at the problem a little bit. Does it always work out in the long run? Not all the time. But again, I think it's part of the strategy of how you use money. I think what you mentioned with streaming, it's a great way to do it. It's a great way to find some type of a deal to be like, yo, whoever it is, we're gonna get you on this 5-game deal. I don't know what it is, and we're gonna make sure it's also games that they're being nationally televised or whatever. The big games that they have that Caitlin Clark's play, all that stuff, so that it's. Again, you have to strategize it so that the money you spend doesn't just be wasted in vain because just like, for example, Bellator that's no longer around. They threw money at that for a long time, and now before it was actually Strikeforce. I'm pretty sure you've heard of it. Strikeforce was before they changed the name to Bellator, but it was like the same thing, if you will. So it's like they've been throwing money at that for a long time, you know. So same thing with Steve Ballmer. What did he do to like kind of gain somewhat of a fan base or something like that in LA? Not only did he build the new arena, he's invested into a lot of schools, a lot of parks, and a lot of stuff in the communities to be able to be like, oh, the Clippers did this and this and that. You know what I mean? And like, if you raise your kids right, though, to go the other way. But that's a different that's a different thing. But man threw money the right way, so that the Clippers can be, what they are right now, which to me still isn't shit. But whatever. That's another conversation for another time, type of thing. But yeah, I mean that's one thing that's just going on in sports right now. And besides that, NFL season's about to start. Very excited for that. The Dodgers have been up and down. We were actually grabbing some wings yesterday when they left.
left.
They left like, I think I heard like 8 men on base yesterday or more. They won the series, but weren't able to do that out. And then I heard that Dave Roberts called out Shohei Ohtani in the press conference afterwards, and like all this stuff. So it's like, problem in paradise. You know what I'm saying?
I just gotta figure it out. It's just different now that he's pitching. He's no longer just batting.
Yeah, and it's by necessity because there's so much injuries. Luka just played a friendly against Germany. I don't know if you saw any of that tape.
He couldn't move his car.
Huh?
Did you see that video?
Nah.
Where they parked his car in front of another car and he couldn't open the door.
Nah, I didn't see that one. But did you see any of those of his clips of playing?
Yeah, he looks skinnier. He looks mobile. He's looking more like a threat. So I think it's gonna be entertaining to see him, and see how he actually comes in. I think the fan base still isn't convinced yet of what the Lakers offer. I mean, we're gonna have to see them in action and see, like, how do they actually play. I mean, on paper, I think they look good,
Right.
but we're gonna have to see that once you actually see the team actually play out.
So this is what we just saw.
Yeah, his highlights basically him playing for his country versus Germany.
Yeah, and that one, this one was pretty dope just because we're seeing him again, like, in shape and all this stuff, and he just re-signed his contract and whatnot, and it's exciting from a LA perspective because we have a future for real, because before it was just the trade, but now he's extended his contract, and it's a big deal in that aspect because in the next couple of years of that extension, right, the big thing has been, LeBron's might leave. Man, LeBron's at the end of his career, type of thing. So he's gonna leave one way or another. And he's been salty lately, I feel like, because I feel like the attention's been turned away from him, and it's the first time in his career where something like this is happening. And it's also where LeBron's still producing, regardless of his age, regardless if you're gonna say he has skill or not. He's still producing. So I feel like he has a right to feel that way in a sense. But I don't know if you saw the thing where he's working out and then there's like a Clipper logo or something like that, and he's like trolling about it.
I think the hardest thing of any athlete is knowing that you're no longer the man. And I think that's the hardest thing. I'm not saying that he's at that point yet because he's proven us otherwise. But I think maybe 2 more seasons in him where it's like, oh, he's the man, or maybe just this one season. We don't know. But it's like coming to terms with the fact that you are no longer the man, I think is one of the hardest things to come in terms with. And to be at peace that it's like, okay, yeah, I got to step away from this role.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it's going to be at a point where, it's just going to, you see it more and more that it's going to be Luka's team. But at the end of the day, I think Luka and LeBron want the same things, and it's to win. You know what I mean? It's to be on top. And I think if there's any way for LeBron to go out on his terms or not, I think his terms is to win. I think it'd be a really good way to end his legacy, his story, by winning a championship and his fifth one. You know what I mean? Um, so I think that as long as this doesn't become an issue that it affects the locker room, um, I think that the Lakers they have a roster to compete. You know, they don't. You may say, oh, but they don't have that other big name, and DeAndre Ayton hasn't been that good, and Marcus Smart hasn't been good since the Celtics, and this and that. And I'm like, I think that environment is a big thing. Location is a big thing. Um, Sometimes, yeah, you're gonna burn in the LA light. You're not gonna be able to keep up with the lifestyle, or whatever. You know what I mean? But I mean, you're in a team with Luka Doncic and LeBron James. When other time are you gonna have that type of opportunity where you have the OG on the team that still can do it, and the new young buck that has that to push forward and all that stuff. So DeAndre Ayton has the DeAndre Ayton has the opportunity to be an X factor to prove himself. You know what I mean? Especially the contract that he signed. Marcus Smart too. Like, man, like, and even Austin Reeves, man. Like, I know he didn't sign his extension, so that's a guy there where some people say that he's like a whatever player or whatever. But I think he's proven his own too, especially alongside LeBron and whatnot. So I don't know. I like to be optimistic.
Yeah.
Just like for the Broncos, I'm
We will have
optimistic.
to see.
And then Aiton's still young, right? Like in his mid-20s per se.
Yeah, I think he's not even 30 years old. Let me double check that real quick. But, it's something where they have a good roster to do something, man. Like, not be. I mean, size is no longer an issue.
Yeah, they got bigs now.
That's not no longer a big thing.
They got 4 that they can rotate.
So. Well, what do you guys think if we're in right now? It's April of 2026. What do you think the Lakers? What seed they are in? Like, if we had to do an early
Like,
prediction,
When did they end? Like, what seed they end
the season ending? Yes,
I would say at least top 4.
hoping for that. He's 27. Mm-hmm.
I would say top 4. I mean, you've already proved that under JJ Redick they play.
Mm-hmm.
They actually move without the ball. They're not just standing there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest issues of watching the Lakers in these past few years prior to JJ Redick, for me, has been players being stagnant and not cutting, not moving. And that's one thing that you saw last season with JJ Redick's team is they actually move. They actually cut. They're actually defending, playing off the ball well. Like, they're using the pick and roll, so it's and the team is fairly young. I mean, the oldest player is LeBron. Everybody else is at least under 31.
Under 30,
yeah. So
30
it's
or under 30,
so I see it as a fairly, like, I wouldn't say completely young, but like at least mid-20s type of thing. So I think the team has the capability to do something. And let's see what JJ Redick cooks up with the new players that he's brought in. I'm sure there's like a vision that he has and why they brought them in. So I would like to see like what he draws up for them, like what plays he draws up for Aiden, what plays he draws up for Marcus Smart. So we'll have to see on that.
Yeah, I would say they would end like somewhere around top 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah.
As long as they're out of the play-in, like, for example, this year,
That's
like
top 6. Yeah.
this year they were 3rd seed.
Yeah.
They had home court advantage, so there was a lot of things that were playing their favor. So I feel like as long as you can stay out of the play-in, that would be a big one.
That happened because of Luka coming in, and that was without bigs.
Well, like, to be fair, the team wasn't doing horribly when Anthony Davis left. They weren't doing horribly.
But they won 3rd seed.
Their record wasn't like they were below. I think they were around like 6th or 7th, something around.
They
there.
were between like 7th and 8th.
I need to really see, but I feel like even if they would have stuck with
I don't think
with,
they get third if they would have stuck with AD, bro.
I mean, I give it to you because bro got injured a week after he got his. He was injured when he got traded, to be
Yeah.
fair, and then and the reason I say this too is because when he got traded and he was injured, the Lakers were going on a crazy run without him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, you know, Luka played a big factor into it because he just changed the style of play for the Lakers
Yeah.
and stuff, and
And that's what I'm
the
saying.
game
They
ran
got
through
third
him a lot.
without a big. Now
Mhm.
you have the bigs. You should be able to do something.
Lakers
about
were
it.
fifth seed in the Western Conference when they traded for Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Traded Anthony Davis. So yeah, they weren't far off. Like the Lakers were doing decent. Anthony Davis hadn't really gotten injured until that point, actually. So that's why a lot of people were like, "Damn, we're letting him go." Like he's been actually solid. Hasn't been street clothes, Anthony Davis. And I'm very curious for this NBA season because
The Mavs are going to be crazy.
the Mavs, the Rockets are a thing. I mean, they're opening the season against OKC in OKC. Kevin Durant's gonna have to see the OKC Thunder get a ring that he didn't contribute to. You know, things type of thing like that, and I think it's Dallas versus the Warriors. I think in the first game, or if not for Christmas, because for Christmas the Lakers play the Rockets.
Oh,
for the
that's going to be a crazy
it's
game.
for the Christmas. So yeah, KD, LeBron type of thing. So there's a
Crazy
lot of
game.
stuff that have happened in the NBA right now that it's very interesting to see. Even for me, like for even the NFL, like I'm curious to see how the Broncos are gonna do and all this stuff. But